Namaskar, sir. Okay, we are meeting you on Deepavali today, and thank you for giving us time, and we are grateful to you for this. Speaking to Hindu Post. So the first question that we would want to speak to you about is, so most of us celebrate Diwali for two things. One is return of Lord Rama, Bhagwan Rama to Ayodhya, and worship of Bhagwan Ganesh and Ma Lakshmi. So, what are the additions to the festival from a spiritual point of view? And since you know more about the Vedas and our culture, please tell us more about the importance of this festival.
Okay. Deepavali, of course, has many sides. It also starts with Dhanteras, which is Dhanvantri Jayanti. And yesterday we celebrated the first national Ayurveda Day based upon Dhanvantri's birth, or his origin, which was in the Samudra Mantana, the arising out of the churning of the cosmic ocean. So that is an important consideration also, because it's not just a question of outer wealth, but inner wealth. Lakshmi also came out of that same ocean, by the way.
Okay.
So on Dhanteras there is also the emphasis is on Lakshmi, but we should also remember Dhanvantri.
So is it always the case that, Dhanteras is, we as children never knew about Bhagwan Dhanvantri.
Right.
We were not told.
Right.
Most of us do not know about this. Right. So every year Dhanteras is celebrated for Bhagwan Dhanvantri as well as Goddess Lakshmi. Is it true?
Yes, Dhanvantri Jayanti is the same day.
Always?
Always.
Okay.
Triodashi. It's a lunar calendar. So the day of the year varies, but the 2 days, just like Diwali, is always there.
Okay.
It's the same.
Okay.
And then today also Kali can be worshipped on the 14th day.
Okay.
Chaturdasi is also worship of Kali.
Okay.
But of course the main issue is, of course, the return of Ram from Ayodhya. And then, of course, the Vijay Dashami is also seen as Ram's victory over Ravana.
Yes, sir.
So that rich symbolism is there. And you have to understand that Ram is the symbol of Dharma.
Yes.
And Ram Raja is the symbol or the story of, Bharat, the national Dharma. And the independence of not only Mahatma Gandhi, but many others were looking at the re-establishment of Ram Raja, which was looking back to the whole Ramayana and the teachings, the traditions that came out of that. Yes. But essentially, Deepavali is also a recognition of movement from darkness to light.
Yes, sir.
Tamasoma Jyoti. I have written an article on that, Swaraja, on that line. There's always been this Vedic idea that we need to move across the ocean of darkness or ignorance to the light.
Yes.
From non-being to being, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. This seeking of the higher light. And the Agni. See, the Agni is, we light the fire outwardly, the Diya. But the Agni is symbolizing the Jivatma, the flame, the Chit-Agni within us, and lighting that. So Vedas begin with Agni Mila, begin with the energization of Agni as that inner flame of awareness. So the outer symbolism of darkness to light reflects an inner symbolism of going beyond the darkness of duality, Maya, and transcending the outer appearances, which is the essence of the Vedic and the Vedanta knowledge. So that is the deeper meaning of Deepavali. And we also have the Yoga Vasishta, which is also given to Ram, Yatma Ramayana, where they are discussing these inner teachings as well. So a celebration of the higher universal light. Many traditions have celebrations of light. Even Christmas is a little bit of a celebration of light. But recognizing that supreme light of consciousness, that is the real light that we need to look for at.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir, for this. And sir, most of us, when we hear you or read your writings, we would like to know what attracted you to the Hindu Dharma. You know, as a child, when you grew up. Tell us more about.
Well, first I did a whole book on that some years ago, actually. In
Yeah.
2000.
Okay.
But I came from a very different background.
Okay.
I came from a Midwestern American family of 10 children.
Oh.
I was the second. I had 7 younger sisters.
Okay.
And small town. And we had no, and also a very strict, staunch Catholic family.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And so there was nothing in my background.
Okay.
Later on, we moved to a bigger city in Denver, Colorado, and all of that.
Okay.
I always had a mystical side to the mind, looking for something more. And in my early youth, or my formative days, I began a study of different historical, religious, philosophical traditions. I learned about the real history of the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And I actually left that at a very young age.
Yeah.
Because I felt that it didn't represent, because I could see there's so many different religions, there's so many different philosophies throughout the world. How can you say that this one is true and all the others are false? In fact, when we were kids, we were taught that Protestants were bad, much less non-Christians. And in my study, I went to the Western philosophy, the existentialists, the modern writers, and all of that. But I found something lacking. And then I discovered Buddhism, Vedanta, yoga. And that drew me in. And at a young age, I came into contact with Yogananda's teaching, which gave us some practical techniques of mantra, pranayama, meditation, and then seeing how they worked, experiencing that. And I always felt that this philosophy of karma and rebirth and moksha, self-realization, was the most logical of all the philosophies. The Western theology is to me very superficial. The Marxist theology, the Marxist philosophy, it's also theology, it's very superficial. And then at an intellectual level, I studied several things, Sri Aurobindo quite well. And he explained things very well for us. But I also had, besides yoga, I developed an interest in Vedanta through the Ramakrishna movement, and studying the works of Shankara, and then Ramana Maharshi's works, and the Sanskrit. But through Aurobindo, I came in contact with Vedas, because he was the only one who emphasized them, and I began to study through that. But I didn't have a lot of contact except with the teachers in America. And then in my mid-20s, first through correspondence, I came in contact with Ananda Varma, who encouraged me in my work. And then in my late 20s in America, I met M.P. Pandit, the secretary of the Aurobindo Ashram. And by that time, I had written quite a bit. So I presented my works to him. I said, outside of academia, he says, brilliant. Because you can see things that, of course, the academics can't. So starting, I think, about in my late 20s, he began extensively publishing my works in India through the Sri Aurobindo Ashram publications. Shortly thereafter, I went to India and began studying other related things, Jyotish, Ayurveda, etc. And it kind of all unfolded without a particular plan. And over time, I was able to meet most of the great teachers in these different fields, not only in America, but also in India. And the first thing, I studied Vedas from the yogic angle. And so, like through Aurobindo, there's a deeper meaning to the Vedic text. But in the process, I saw that the Vedic view of the world was not what they were saying. It wasn't this Aryan invasion. It was a vast image of the ocean, great rishis, in-depth culture. So I challenged that historically. And then I also saw, when I came to India, how much Hinduism had been distorted, the Vedic tradition. So I began writing on those subjects. So my view began with yoga, and then it moved into Vedanta, then into Vedas and the Vedic sciences. But then I began to understand the history and the Sanatana Dharma and the Vedic teaching behind it. And I didn't stop at one level. I ended up trying to include that whole view of the Sanatana Dharma and the proper understanding of Hinduism. Many people in the West think that Yoga Vedanta is something apart from Hinduism or some certain side of it, when in fact they are the essence of it. So that in just is. But I had many great teachers, and they helped me quite a bit.
Thank you, sir, for that. And so one more thing is when we send our children to schools,
Right.
and a lot of different gurus come at home, and we have our family
Right.
gurus and
Right.
other gurus.
Right.
Most of us are told, Sarv Dharma Sambhav.
Right.
All religions are equal.
Right.
So, what do you think about it? Is this the right perception, or what should be thought of this? What should be understood out of it?
Well, I've been criticizing that for years. I've written chapters of books and done a number of
I think I
interviews on
heard
that.
one of your for India Inspires or something.
Yes, I think,
Yeah.
yes. What happened is that there's a lot of misinterpretation.
Yeah.
All dharmas are equal, but dharma and religion are different. See, dharma is the universal true principle. Fire has the dharma to burn. You won't find a fire that doesn't burn.
Yeah.
There are certain ahimsa, satya, these are universal truth principles. But belief in a particular deity, belief in a virgin birth, these are not dharmas. These are the beliefs of a particular historical community. Now one can debate, one can say this belief may help people, maybe it does, but it's not dharma. So the Western view of religion is a belief system. And for example, in Christianity, there's certain prime beliefs, or in Catholicism, certain prime beliefs that you accept on faith.
Right.
Whereas dharma is something that is observable and experiential. So the dharmas are one, but we have to understand religions are different. And religion is a phenomenon in human life like so many others. We can't say that all governments are the same. All law is the same. All art is the same. When you go out, when you go out to find a husband or a wife, you can't say all men are the same or all women are the same. It doesn't matter. Or what jobs? You can't say all jobs are the same. It doesn't matter. So you have to have viveka, or discrimination in life, to have the proper food, the proper medicine. And in the spiritual realm, viveka is doubly important. Now, certainly we should respect freedom of religion. And if people want to hold to certain views, we shouldn't interfere. But at the same time, we don't have to say all things are true or equal. And sometimes it has been misinterpreted. Like Ramakrishna didn't regard all religions as equal.
Okay.
He mainly practiced the Hindu Dharma, the Yoga, the Tantra. But he said these other religions may have something good in them also. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the Catholic Church is teaching the truth. Whatever mullah, whatever minister, whatever evangelical is teaching the truth, and it doesn't matter. See?
Right.
The same teacher said you have to have a guru. These traditions don't have gurus. But you have to have a sadhana. These traditions don't. You're saved by belief. You're not saved by sadhana. And then there was this confusion then of what we would say is freedom of religion, with all religions being the same. You should be free to practice the religion you wish, but that doesn't make them all equal. You should be free to vote for the candidate of your choice, but that doesn't mean all candidates are
equal.
You should respect human, and they're good people.
So what does this exactly mean then?
Sarvadharma? Yeah, but that came from the text. It came from texts that were talking about the unity of dharmas.
Okay.
But the Mahabharata say that the rivers that, I don't remember the Sanskrit, the rivers that enter the Eastern Ocean don't flow to the Western Ocean. And you have to understand, like in the Gita, when we talk about Shraddha, or faith, they don't say all faith is one. In the Gita, faith is described as sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So that has to be borne in mind. So spirituality, religion is a very diverse field. There are many options. There are many good paths, but there are also many bad paths. And life, just because you have a choice of paths doesn't mean all paths are going to take you to the right place. You have many roads you can take, but they're not all going to take you to Delhi or wherever you're going to go. You have to follow the right path, and each individual is different. What may be the right path for one person may not work for another. So the traditions out of India are pluralistic. They recognize there are many paths to truth in the broader sense. The Western religious traditions are exclusivistic. They teach that there is only one goal, and they tend to say that theirs is the only legitimate path.
Yes.
So we cannot equate those two things.
Okay.
And then the second thing is that in the traditions coming out of India, spirituality is not so much a faith, but a way of knowledge.
Yeah.
It is a science. Scientists can't say all scientific theories are equal. They're all correct. That is the end of science.
Yeah.
So we have a way of knowledge. And in that way of knowledge, then you should have free inquiry. But there has to be a debate about ideas. And for example, if all religions are equal, the Hindu Buddhist traditions teach karma and rebirth. Western religions teach you have only one life. Does that mean the law of karma doesn't matter?
True.
So
You're
you
right.
have to understand.
Yeah.
Have to understand that.
So, and sir, one more thing is you have the American experience also,
Right.
and we would like to know how is the term secularism used in America as compared to India. We know how
Yes,
it is
yes,
being
yes.
misused rather in India. So, what is the difference, essential difference between how it is applied there and here?
Well, first of all, it's secularism throughout the West, not just simply secularism in America.
Yeah.
Secularism means that at a political and state level, there is no regard for religion.
Yeah.
There is a neutrality. Neutrality. And there's a freedom of religion in America. So that is there. In India, secularism means giving not only freedom of religion, but almost giving equal prominence to all religions, or equal validity to all religions, or even worse, in India, secularism means favoring minority religions and taxing majority religions.
This doesn't happen in America?
No. In fact, in America, there's the majority Christian religion, the government can't take that money.
Yeah?
No, not at all. And if the government did give a benefit to minority religions, everybody would open a minority religion in their basement in order to avoid taxes, in order to take that money.
Yeah.
So India is the only country where secularism is used to take the resources and the money from the majority religion. It's also the only country where the majority religion is subject to legal regulation. And minority religions are ignored. For example, in America, the courts cannot judge any religious festival.
The Deepavali or
Whatever it is,
or
Christmas or anything else. It's not something the
They
courts...
don't. They cannot.
They have no right to make a judgment.
Okay.
Now, if there's some violence...
Using of lights or people are absolutely
No,
on their own.
They can make regulations relative if there's
Safety,
a crime,
yeah.
if there's safety regulations, but there's no judgment on a particular celebration or event. You can say using certain lights, there's certain regulations electronically, whatever, but you can't say for a particular event these things are not allowed. Now that being said, in America, there is still a favoritism for Christianity.
Okay.
Particularly relative to foreign policy. American government very staunchly supports American evangelical and religious groups in their overseas activity, particularly in India. The Indian government does not support Hindu activities overseas.
So while they favor majority there, here we undermine majority.
You tend to undermine the majority. That is the general situation. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Some years ago, a group we know was actually an Italian Hindu union, was striving to get marriage in Hinduism recognized in Italy. And I have to tell you, they have succeeded. They had no support from the Indian government. So they arranged a meeting of the different ambassadors of different countries in Rome on the issue of making Hinduism and Hindu marriage legal. Ambassadors from so many governments came. The ambassador from India did not come and said, I cannot come because India is a secular country.
Oh my God. Okay.
So these things have gone on. And I think what happened in India, as you see the independence movement, you have to create national unity. That's fine. But that doesn't mean you cannot, that the...
At the cost of one...
That doesn't mean the debate about religions must come to an end. Because India is the main country in the world today where there is Christian missionary activity going on. China does not allow. Islamic countries do not allow.
Yes.
India is the main place where not only this activity is allowed, it's often tolerated, and even the money they bring in is often ignored.
Yeah.
So by criticizing secularism, we're not asking that India has to become legally pro-Hindu, but there has to be an equality of the law.
Right.
And India's role, for example, the Christians criticize India as being anti-Christian. They don't do the same for the other Islamic and other countries where they're not allowed.
Yeah.
So they should at least honor India as one of the few countries
which is allowing it.
which actually allows them to come in. But they need to be scrutinized.
True.
Because there are various vested interests that come into play. For example, Russia also is a country that doesn't allow missionaries in
there.
So, but sadly, many Hindus, especially educated middle-class Hindus, they still lack the knowledge that there is actually legal discrimination against Hindus.
Yes.
For example, we can't control our own religious institutions.
Yes.
In the field of education, also we have this new law called RTE, under which only the Hindu-run schools have to
Majority-run schools.
Yeah.
Majority-run schools.
Majority-run schools means Hindus, but also means anybody who's not a minority religion.
Yeah.
So there are these problems, and they need to be addressed. And also, that's why I've been writing relative to the West, because people in the West don't know that. See, what happens is that the leftist media in India has certain alliance. But they have an alliance with the media in the West. The media in the West doesn't know that what they're saying is not necessarily correct. So they say that Hindus are an oppressive majority. They don't know about these temple issues and things like that.
Yeah, of course.
So there has been a lack of communication, and also this Indian government has been at fault, because the Indian government has not tried to correct these issues. In fact, the Indian government has often had anti-Hindu interests, and so they've actually promoted anti-Hindu attitudes in the foreign media in order to denigrate the Hindus. I'll give you an example. This was some years ago. But it was at the time of Ram Janmabhoomi, somewhere after that, and the Amarnath issue had come up. And there was a couple things I noticed in the New York Times. The New York Times described the Amarnath pilgrimage as Hindus going there to worship the sex organs of Shiva, the god of destruction. This was the word they used. And when they talked about the destruction of Babri Masjid, New York Times described it as the oldest mosque in India.
Oh.
See, things are
very wrongly communicated.
And but there were certain vested interests that kept that together. Unfortunately, there's the academic alliance. For example, in the West today, if you go to humanities departments, there are more communists than Republicans, even though communism is not allowed as a legal political group. So there are these distortions that have come in, and that is what groups like us, we've been challenging, and that is what Hindu Post has also been very necessarily challenging, bringing out the truth.
Right.
It's not a question of creating prejudice or encouraging distortion, but showing on the ground what is actually happening. And it is very different. India is often perceived as a soft state. So then you bring in outside influences to disrupt and to control. So now the other interesting thing in the West is that you now have the Hindu community has grown quite a bit. So the Hindu community in America is the most educated and affluent of all the minority communities except the Jews, and they're very close. The average Hindu makes twice what the American Christian or the American Muslim makes, or even Buddhist. And they've been very successful in a number of fields. They have temples everywhere, major cities. So the view of Hindus in America is actually much more positive. For example, even a lot of Christians work for organizations run by Hindus, because Hindus are in cities like Houston or Dallas or Atlanta that have a large Christian or evangelical population. And then we have the Hindu American Foundation, which is the only real Hindu lobbyist group at a government level in the world. Because the other problem is Hindus have not funded these type of political and intellectual media groups for various reasons. So they found that they can get a Hindu view across. People are open to it, but it has to be presented and it has to be defended. For example, we were discussing with some of the black groups in America, or Native American groups in America. The discourse on the Native Americans when we were children is that they were savages killing the white settlers. Now, the fact that they were victims of genocide has come out to a very great extent. So we were talking to them, and they said to us, look, we had to work very hard to do this. No one's going to do this for you. So to change the narrative on Hinduism requires as much money, as much effort, as much time as what we have done. So Hindus haven't always done that. Of course, there are a new group in the West, now they are making efforts. But that narrative can be changed. And then, of course, Hindu-based teachings like yoga, Ayurveda are popular. And even studies have shown that over a quarter of the American population believes in rebirth. In spite of their, this is a long-term study. So the openness to Hindu-based ideas is there. Sometimes people are still influenced by the old missionary propaganda, which certain groups are still upholding. So they may say, I'm very much into yoga, I follow Vedanta. They even have a Sanskrit name, but I'm not a Hindu. Because they don't want to be identified with what they are told as certain negative things there.
Okay, right.